welcome to our TAMS webinar this evening. We are excited to have you join us. I'm just admitting a few more folks here. Let's get everybody on just really quickly. Make sure everybody's coming in. All right. So at this time, we'll get started with sharing the screen here. We're going to go into presentation mode. If you have questions, feel free while we are doing the presentation to just chat your questions. Conversation piece. I may need to jump
Unknown
out
participant is now joining.
Along and just double check a few things. And occasionally I need to actually admit some of the guests that are waiting around in the lobby. So we're just getting that taken care of here really quickly. Just a few more logistics. And I hope everybody's doing great this evening. It's very chilly outside, so I understand it's a very cold couple of days. I hope everyone's staying warm. Let me do one more thing here and we'll get going. All right. So welcome to our webinar. And I will just, again, if you have questions during the presentation, don't hesitate to ask us in the comments and we'll get to the Q&A at the end of the presentation. And I'll advance if you like, or would you like to advance?
No,
okay. All right, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, we're going to basically cover 3 issues today. What is TAMS, an overview of the program, everything you need to know about admissions, and then we'll open the floor up for questions and answers. What is TAMS? TAMS has been around since act of the legislature in 1987, actually, and the first students entered in 1988 and graduated in 1990, so we've been here about 29 years. We are an early university admission program for bright Texas residents who are interested in STEM careers, STEM programs. We're residential, meaning that everybody who attends TAMS lives in the same residence hall, happens to be McConnell Hall, and they spend 2 years here, the equivalent of your 11th and 12th grade year here at TAMS. At the end of the 2 years, we have formal graduation exercises like other programs, and you get a diploma, which happens to have University of North Texas on it, as well as Texas Academy of Mathematics and Science. We're unique in that, in the age of our students, for one thing, in the fact that we are completely STEM oriented. There are a lot of bright students in the state of Texas. Not all of them are interested in STEM or planning STEM careers. So TAMS is unique in that way. It's also unique in being the only such program in the state of Texas dedicated to STEM events. And students typically find out about the program fairly early, maybe even in middle school, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. We have lots of programs on campus where we welcome students to explore. We have preview days and such, and we're happy to show off our program, our residence hall, our staff. We are well staffed by experienced individuals. Being the head of the program is a dean. We have associate and assistant deans, and we have a number of various staffers. We admit roughly 200 students per year, more or less. We have 374 total students at this time. You can see on the screen that we are kind of a hybrid program. College and high schools are similar in some respects, different in some respects. TAMS is somewhere in the middle. We do have supervised learning events for our students. On the other hand, you're away from home and you have a lot of autonomy. You are free, basically, to chart your own career. We encourage students, of course, to go to class, get up, take care of themselves, and so on. But you have a lot of freedom in the classes that you take, the activities that you are involved in. One big difference between high school and college is that generally speaking, in high school, you're in class for a set number of hours a day, maybe 7 hours, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depending on your particular school district. At TAMS, you may only take, depending on your schedule, 3 courses for any given day, or maybe even 1 course for any given day. The point is that you are out of class more than you're actually in class. But outside of class is where you do a lot of your learning as well, and you take part in activities, events, clubs, and organizations, which we shall discuss forthwith. But you are in charge of your learning. We hope that you apportion your time correctly. We, of course, have a lot of support programs available to you to help keep you on the right course, to help steer you, and so on. At the end of your 2 years, you will have accumulated at least 60 credit hours, some more than that, some much more than that, up to 72 or even more, which is quite an accomplishment, such that when you go to your next institution, whether that's here at the University of North Texas or some other school, Rice or UT or even outside of Texas to Ivy League or to the West Coast, whatever it happens to be, you can start at advanced standing because you've taken so many courses and you've accumulated so many credits. You are not solely responsible for your career. Like I said before, and I want to emphasize, there are a lot of support programs here, more than you would get in a typical high school. We want you to succeed, and we'll do all that we can to help you to succeed. One of the big factors we look for in evaluating applications is whether or not the student really wants to be here. Motivation to be here is huge. Of course, your parents will still be supervising you from a distance, but you'll be making a lot of very important decisions on your own. And if this is something you don't want to do or something that you're being forced to do, it's not an optimal situation. It's kind of counterproductive, really. The most successful TAM students are those who really want to be
Is now exiting.
and who have particular goals in mind and won't have anything to deter them from those goals. Yes. Okay, all the classes you take here are regular university classes. These are not special TAMS classes. They are regular UNT classes taught by UNT faculty, which means you may be in class with other normal university students from all over the state of Texas. I mentioned before, lots of college credit can be earned in your 2 years if you chart your course correctly, 72 hours or more. A big issue that we are promoting, and which has really sets us apart, is research. We have mentored research opportunities for students who have particular goals in mind. And these are important in teaching you research methodology, conducting research, working with a research team, working with a faculty researcher. You can have papers published as co-authors, obviously. And some of our projects go on to win awards, pretty prestigious awards, as a matter of fact. And we have quite a long history of students who go on to win awards for their research efforts, as well as in publishing papers, presenting their papers at conferences and so forth. Not something you normally see high school age individual do. Just to name a few, the Goldwater Scholarship and the Goldwater Awards are very prestigious honors that we have been very successful in winning. Siemens competitions, other kinds of similar competitions like that. I will say that our students are a very ambitious lot, and they love contests, participating in contests, and they do well in it. And we support that. We encourage that. Lots of academic support. We have academic counselors to help you with your work, to help you stay on track. As a matter of fact, just this very day, in this very room, we had one of our weekly support meetings where we discussed progress of our students. It is very vital to us that our students succeed and that they are reaching their goals and meeting their expectations. We have tutoring available. All of these are free, by the way. They're provided by TAMS to help our students succeed. There was an old commercial, Vidal Sassoon hair commercial many years ago. If you don't look good, we don't look good. Well, if our students don't look good, we don't look good. So we very much want them to succeed for any number of reasons, personal, of course, but also for their own progress along the road to their goals.
And I'm just going to back up just a quick second regarding the mentored research. We actually, our last webinar went over the academics and research portion being with Dr. Jim Duband, who oversees that portion of our program. And the webinar is actually listed out where you would have registered. You can actually view the video from that site, and there's just about 1 billion nuggets of really great information on that webinar. So if you're interested more in the research component, I implore you to go out and take a look at that. So moving forward.
We have 5 tracks. The traditional science track has been the main track since the beginning, but we have since added computer science and engineering, music, media arts and visual arts and design. And the beautiful phrase that we use, that these tracks help explore the intersections of STEM and the future. Lots of our students are, I dare say all of them, are multi-talented. They are just not only good math and science students, but they have interesting talents in design and arts and so on. And so this is a place to explore them. You can pick a track, specialize in that track, and we have a curriculum that's, all of the tracks have the same STEM core, the biology, the chemistry, the physics, the mathematics, and so on, with some variations for the arts.
So I'll talk a little bit about the student life component. I worked with student life for a couple of years as one of our coordinators under Russ Stukel, who is the director of student life currently. So where you would live once you come here is in McConnell Hall. The residence is actually shut down to only TAMS students. And so we have like 2 entrances that open up to that front desk, and they're watched and viewable by the front desk. So no one can enter the space without signing into and out of the hall without someone knowing that they're there. So if they're not a TAMS student, they're aware that someone else is in the building, and they always have to be escorted throughout the facility with that person. It is co-ed, but the genders are separated by wing. There are pretty, good guidelines in place for the students to know where they're supposed to be, that sort of thing. There are a lot of common spaces for studying and for the clubs and organizations. We have about 40 clubs ranging around that number. About 20 of those are advised by a mentor, and then the other 20 are actually created and developed solely by the students, and they're run solely by the students. So there's a lot of activity available to the TAMS students while they're there, and those spaces are utilized by those groups. There's 21 live-in staff. The staff to student ratio is 1:18. These numbers may be just a little bit different. I didn't ask Russ to fully tell me about the ratio, but there are 2 hall directors, and then we have 4 program advisors that are half-time, and then we have 15 resident assistants that are half-time.
And you might want to add that the hall directors are young adults who actually live in the residence hall.
Yeah, we actually have a baby. We've had a baby for a little over a year. There is a family that is, so one of the hall directors, Lauren Edgar, is one of our hall directors, and they have a little one who she went through her pregnancy while living on campus, and they now live there with little Levi, and he's super cute and adorable. So but the reason I said that staff to student ratio is because we have taken on a few more staff members, and one of those actually is one of our academic counselors, which we added this year in light of the fact that we did add the 3 arts components to our tracks. That is something that our newest academic counselor, Melissa Schneider, has been able to take on. And so that ratio may just be a little bit funny because of that. But most of the professionals that are officing out of the facility, you can see there the assistant dean for student life, the assistant director of student life, and then all of the psychologists have space over there. We actually have 3 folks that the students are able to go and talk to, one of them being our full-time psychologist and 2 others that are part-timers. And so we have also male and female psychologists the students are able to get appointments with. I've talked a little bit about the clubs and organizations. That's actually inclusive of a student government organization. We have a lot of different variety of things for the students to get included in while they're here. We actually also have, I've been asked about having a religious organization or a speech and debate organization. So all of those are actually accounted for. We have stuff in place, and most of the time they're run really well by the students, and they like to get really involved. So you can see some of these images here. We have a lot of stuff for them to be able to do. Now, one question I do get, are students allowed from outside of the TAMS organization able to join these organizations? And they are not. So our regular undergrads are not able to be included in on our organizations that we have for our TAM students. So it is very exclusive. Now, the TAM students are able to join organizations campus-wide, so it goes reverse for them, that they're able to actually get out and get involved with other orgs that are available on campus, but again, not the other way around. So I'll go over the cost a little bit, and I'll start this with a little bit of a caveat that prices change on a frequent basis. And so with regards to tuition and housing, those things kind of, there's an ebb and flow to how the academic world works. And just taking that into account, our costs are not always going to be the same. In addition to that, we have an ebb and flow with how much the program will be able to provide on an annual basis. Again, these prices provided are estimates, and they may change from year to year. For this incoming class of 2022, we are offering an $8,200 scholarship. The room and board is approximately around, $8,000 to $9,000. Our program fee is $2,500. We also offer the option for financial aid. Filling out the FAFSA is pretty much a thing. When you come on, you want to fill that out for your family and see what needs you might have. Now, with our earlier acceptance rates this year, because we've gone into a rolling admission, and Dr. Jones will talk about this a little bit later, we actually have the capability of getting into scholarships a little bit more. The UNT General Scholarship closes down typically the last week of February, first week of March. And for those earlier applicants that we decide on, and they have gone through the acceptance chunk through with admissions, we are able to get them in and get them applied for the UNT General Scholarship. So that's going to be a change for this year, and we're hopeful that it's going to be a positive change for the students that want to come in and try to get scholarships. So I'll hand it back over to Dr. Jones.
Just a little note before that, FAFSA, I'm sure everyone knows, but in case you don't, is a free application for federal student aid. We want you to fill it out early because your family contribution, your estimated family contribution, will be decided by your responses to that, and whatever is left over that pays for TAMS, we can provide that for you. But we have to know what your FAFSA numbers are before we can provide aid. So please fill a FAFSA out as soon as you can. Now everything you need to know about the admissions process.
But we're afraid to ask.
All application materials have to be submitted before we begin evaluating the file. That includes all the references, all the test scores, all the transcripts, all the teacher evaluations. Once all those materials are in, we begin to evaluate the file for interviews. What we are trying to do, first of all, is to be rigorously fair. We take into account the fact that people come from schools of differential rigor, for example, differential locations. We try to hold it against someone whose school is not as does not have as broad or as difficult a curriculum as others. We try to take those factors into account. You cannot help where you happen to live or the quality of your local school. That being said, we do expect excellent grades, whatever school you attend. And so we just hold that and we make allowances for that, in other words. We invite you to interview if we are satisfied that you have the academic aptitude, of course, but also that your teachers, particularly your math teacher, your science teacher, and your English teacher, can vouch for your motivation, your aptitude, as well as your commitment to STEM and your proclivity to do all things STEM. We realize that at the age of 15, 16, you may not exactly know what you want to do, and that's fine. It's not a requirement that you know precisely that you want to be a thoracic surgeon, but you have some idea of what you might want to do involving STEM or engineering, that kind of thing. We do look at those and evaluate those students who in their applications indicate they're not particularly interested in STEM, even if they're good at STEM, are at a disadvantage to students who want to pursue STEM careers. After all, that's why TEMS was created. If your file passes muster, and there's a chart on our webpage indicating some of the judgments we use to indicate whom to invite for interviews. I might discuss that in a little bit. But if you happen to be invited to an interview day, you'll receive a letter telling you where to go and where to be and so forth. All the application materials will have been reviewed, and when you come here, you do the interview as well as you take a math test, and then we send our decision notifications out on a time specified in a letter, actually an email, to all families. Eligibility, of course, this is a Texas program, so we admit only Texas students paid for by the state of Texas. You must complete, let me just mention, we prefer sophomores. Every now and then we'll admit a younger student. I've been here several decades actually, and I can only remember maybe 4 or 5 freshman age students who were admitted. So it's kind of a rare thing, but every now and then you'll see someone who is ready. But for the most part, the overwhelming number of our students who qualify are sophomores. You must complete geometry, algebra 1 and algebra 2 by the end of your sophomore year. We inspect your 7th through 10th grade report cards, transcripts, whatever your particular school calls them, your grade reports. Then you must take the SAT or the ACT, submit scores to UNT, not to TAMS, submit the scores to UNT by a code that we provide on the web page. Then UNT will send them to our admissions office for evaluation. You'll probably want to, well, based again on the chart of that we use to evaluate whether or not you should be interviewed, you should have a pretty good idea of the kind of standards that we set. References from your counselor or principal. Some students attend schools that are so small that the principal is kind of in the place of the counselor. But in larger schools, it would be the counselor. Your teachers are math, science, and English teachers. We always advocate strongly treating your teachers with great respect for any number of reasons, not the least of which is their comments can either get you into TAMS or keep you away based on your behavior towards them. So as a general rule, show your teachers respect anyway, but especially show them respect since they're going to be writing your evaluations. That means giving them plenty of time to write them. You might even want to ask, if it's not too impudent, can you write me a favorable recommendation? This will tip you off because applications are competitive, as you might imagine, and if there are flaws in your application, so much the worse for you. But if everything looks tip-top, you have a good shot of making it into TAMS.
Now I'm just going to interject here because our admissions coordinator who does all the paperwork would just like slap me on the hand if I didn't say anything. But the requirements for those report cards are, it's typically a 7th and 8th grade unofficial set of report cards, and then a 9th grade transcript, again being unofficial. And then all of your 10th grade report cards as you're going through that 10th grade 6 to 9 week set. So you can also supplement in any further 10th grade report cards as the semester goes on by emailing. But those initial report cards and unofficial transcripts are all to be uploaded through our upload center. So, and we'll get a little more into that next week with Miss Laura, who is our admissions coordinator. Whoops, there we go.
Okay, our application is online, and of course, as with everything, read the instructions carefully. There's a question, I think it's number 26, but don't quote me on that, that asks for were there any unusual circumstances attending to your application? This might mean difficulty in acquiring documents, difficulty in getting teachers to write evaluations. There are any number of unusual circumstances. We just like to know about it in a sentence or two to help us evaluate your file. Some examples are students who leave one school district to another, and they may have difficulty deciding on whom to write their evaluations. What you would do then, if you are having difficulty, is to call us either by phone or by email. We do answer your questions on a case-by-case basis. People are different, and so just let us know what the unusual circumstances are. I could not find my English teacher. My English teacher retired last year, and so what do I do? Or I was in a different, I'm a Texan, but I was in, I don't know, Missouri last year. So how do I get those evaluations? There are all kinds of special circumstances. Be honest, don't tell us what you think we want to hear. Invariably, you get into trouble. Tell us what you really think, what your feelings really are, and you can't go wrong there. I have presided over, gosh, I don't know how many thousands of applications over the years that I've been here, and you can usually tell when someone is not being honest by the timbre and tone of their comments. So that's kind of a red flag in itself. Next one. Have the following handy because you'll need them to fill out your application. Your CEEB code, which stands for College Entrance Examination Board code. Every school has a CEB code, and I doubt very much that you know what that code is, but your counselor knows what that code is. So you simply ask the counselor, what is my CEEB code? The same goes for your Education Service Center region number. You probably don't know that. On the right, you see a colorful diagram of the state of Texas. Texas is divided up into 20 Education Service Center regions. The Education Service Center regions, or the ESCs, are a product of the Texas Education Agency. Back in, not to get historical, but back in 1997, it was decided that Texas should be broken up into 20 different regions. Each of these regions serves the population of that region. They have programs put in place to help with improving performance, for example, for a particular school. We're located in Denton, which I think would be in Region 10. Region 11 on the map is Fort Worth. Region 10 is Richardson, is the center, but it's basically Dallas. So that's where we are. But if you were in, say, El Paso, you'd be in 19 If you were in Brownsville, you'd be in Region 1, Houston, Region 4, and so on. So there are 20 of those. We need to know those numbers for any number of reasons, not least of which includes the names and district numbers of your state senator and representative. Why on earth do we need those kinds of things? Well, for one thing, our applications not only are passed on to others here at TAMS who have reason to know these things, but we pass along information to your representatives and your senator. Sometimes, I can't guarantee it, they might even send you a congratulatory letter for getting into TAMS. The legislature is a big supporter of TAMS. They provide us the funding to operate the program. And so we send this information, all your awards, all of your honors, all of your successes here at TAMS will go to your senator and representatives. Not only that, to the Education Service Center, we provide publicity. Information might go into your local newspaper and so on. So there are reasons for asking for all of these arcane bits of information. Okay, we have an upload center. We request that you read the instructions very carefully. Only upload one time. There are reasons for that. I won't get into it, but be sure to upload these items in the PDF format. Report cards from 7th and 8th grade and your transcript from the 9th grade. Your current report card. Most people apply to TAMS while they're currently in the 10th grade, and they will have had one or more reporting periods under their belts. And so we want the current report card, whenever that might be, to give us a glimpse of how you are doing now. The residency questionnaire. Again, TAMS is a Texas program. We have to make sure you are Texas residents. There are, and I certainly won't get into these tonight, there are some exceptions made for students who just moved here. There are rules and regulations, which I don't even know all of them, but visa types that make you eligible and so on. But turn in your residency questionnaire, making sure you include the cover page. The university itself, UNT, will decide whether or not you are a resident based on the information you provide. And they will certify that you are a resident. And if you are, then you are eligible to have to be admitted to TAMS. Have everything ready to upload when you access the center. This will save you a lot of aggravation. So your CEB code, all those things, your report cards, your residency questionnaire, and so on. Have it ready to go, and it'll be a much smoother process for you to enter documents into the upload center. The teacher evaluations, again, read the instructions carefully. All you have to do is pick your favorite math, science, and English teacher and your counselor to write evaluations for you. Again, show a great deal of deference and respect. These are, no doubt, very busy people who have a lot of things to do. You'll want to give them plenty of time to write you an evaluation. And I will say this, having read, I can't tell you countless numbers of evaluations, most of them really want to do a good job for you. They want to bring out your best attributes and to help you succeed in your career. You'd be amazed. I tell students all the time, TAMSers all the time, you would love to read what your math teacher said about you or what your English teacher said about you. But you must give them time to do so. So do not hand them materials to fill out in something that's due tomorrow or something like that. Give them plenty of time and thank them for the privilege. Type the email addresses very carefully. People go wrong. One missed letter can change the entire address, and so it fouls up communication. Follow up with your teachers. Make certain that they have filled out the information for you. Sometimes, being busy individuals, they will just sometimes forget. Gently nudge them, emphasis on the word gently, and respectfully nudge them to send in your evaluations. And I will say this, if it'll allay your minds, the overwhelming majority of evaluations that I read are very positive. I do come across, maybe as a percentage, 5% that are not really that good. Either the student couldn't get a teacher more favorable to them, or that's just the way they behaved. And that's all you can get is a poor evaluation. A bad evaluation will wreck your application, I'll tell you that right now. So you'll want as good an evaluation as you can get, with flowery phrases and compliments of what a great student you are. I get those a lot, and it's a compliment to the quality of our students that they inspire such tribute, such lyrical phrases, and we love to see those. The waiver. Under the FERPA Act of 1974, that's the Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act of 1974, you have the right to inspect your evaluation letters. However, we recommend that you waive these rights. You will receive a form that says I either waive or do not waive access to my files. Why do we recommend waiving your rights? Some educators, well, first of all, we tell the teachers whether or not you waive your rights. So the teacher knows you're going to read their letters. They may be less circumspect than they otherwise might be. They might be less candid. They might be very curt and not elaborate at all about what they really think of you, because they know you're going to read it. However, when they know that you are not going to read it, they can be more candid. And again, there's an overwhelming possibility that you're going to get a favorable evaluation anyway, so I don't know why you wouldn't waive your rights. But according to FERPA, you can avoid waiving your rights, but we recommend waiving your rights. As a matter of fact, well over, I dare say 97, 98% of our students waive their rights, and we recommend you do the same. Okay, what comes next? You submit your application with all the documents, and it activates your status page. Check your status page, and it will tell you what we have and what we have not achieved. When your status page says finished, that means you're complete. We begin serious evaluation of your files. And those of you who are competitive across the board will be invited to interview. And this is a chart that's on the web page. I don't know how well this is coming across, but it's kind of the rubric that I use in picking students to interview. The more your scores are to the right of the screen, as opposed to being to the left of the screen, the better your chances are. In other words, if your math score is, I'll just pick the central, 600 or higher. If your verbal is 550 or higher. If your ACT, if you choose to take that, is 25 or higher. Your grades, 90%. You're in the top, say, 15%. And your teacher evaluations, which you probably won't read because you've waived your rights, are at least good. A word or two about ranking. I had a prospective Tam's mother asked me some time ago, well, my child's school is very rigorous. So even though she makes very good grades, she might not be in the top 15%. We take that into consideration as well. Don't worry about the rank. This is just kind of a general program. I look at when I look at the application, I look at the schools. And I know a lot of the schools in Texas, certainly not all of them, but I'm very familiar with a lot of the schools and how prestigious they are, how difficult they are. And so the rank won't assume that much importance. But for many schools, top 15% is kind of a minimum, and 90% in your grades is kind of a minimum. But if you can get your scores on the right, then the better your chances for an interview. On interview day, two things that go on. You take algebra tests and you take the interview. The algebra tests, you take two tests, multiple choice, with practice tests being provided to you in advance. Most students, again, I'll allay your fears, most students do pretty well on the tests. We're very happy with that. And we expect that. After all, you're pre-selected for the interview. The interview is an open file interview, meaning the person who was interviewing you will have access to your file materials, and they will know about you, and so they can tailor their questions to you specifically. The interviews are one-on-one, meaning one faculty or staff member to one interviewee. So one of us and one of you. The questions will not be academic questions, so you need not study for your interview. No one's going to ask you detailed scientific or biological questions, about glycolysis or photosynthesis or something. They're going to ask questions about you, your motives, your plans for the future, and so on. And they're only 20, 25-minute interviews. How much information can they get out of you? We'd like it to be conversational in tone. We know you're probably going to be nervous because you are human, but we say again, relax. This is not an inquisition. We just want to find out a little bit more about you to balance what we know about you from your file. And so these are the factors that go into our decision to admit, to put on the alternate list, or to not admit. The application, the teacher evaluations, the transcripts, your test scores, the interviewer impressions, and your interview day math scores. That's essentially it. So you have some control, more than you might think, over your prospects. And what you don't know, of course, is what are the other applicants like, and you can't know that. But as long as you put your best foot forward, do the best that you can do, anticipate a good outcome, and you probably will have a fairly good outcome. We have a selection committee who huddle around. They don't necessarily huddle around this table. We actually have a bank of computers that they huddle around. They are from all over Texas. They arrive here to evaluate files, having already looked at your files in advance. They come here to debate, to try to persuade, and try to add information to their recommendations. And who are they? First of all, they are professionals. Some of them are physicians. Some of them are engineers. Many of them are TAMS alumni, doing great work from all over the state of Texas, from Houston and San Antonio and Austin and Dallas and all over. They volunteer their time. We only pay them lunch, but they come here because they want to see TAMS stay as prestigious as it is, to uphold the honor that they set forth. They were helpful in keeping the standards high, and so they are fair and they are impartial, and we respect them greatly. The decisions that they make are either approved for admission, which means you will be admitted, or placed on the wait list, the alternate list, or you are not approved for admission. You will receive letters explaining all of those things. If you are an alternate, aside from, I will explain to you why you are in that group, but I will also include a FAQ sheet, a frequently asked questions. Questions tend to be basically the same. Essentially, why am I not in? What did I do wrong? Where did I slip up? Those kinds of things. I will provide those. And please also know that many an alternate, I can't give you percentages or numbers, but many an alternate over the years has been admitted eventually. And once you are admitted to TAMS, no one even knows that you were on the wait list, nor particularly care. The fact is you were good enough to be admitted to TAMS, and so we are very happy with that. So it's not the best of news to receive a letter saying you were an alternate, but it's not the worst of news either. The worst news is number 3. You're not approved at all. If you are an alternate, you will have a chance to embellish your file. I will send recommendations for that. You can either provide new grades, new evaluations, new honors, use your imagination, whatever you think will enhance your application to burnish it even further. Go ahead and do that. And a number of alternates do get admitted and are quite successful.
And all of that can be sent in because you've already gone through the upload center and that sort of thing. You'll need to admit those files through tamsadmissions@unt.edu. So that email is out there and it's been advertised to you in a couple of places, but for all intents and purposes for here, I'm announcing it again.
So these are the potential verdicts. You'll get a letter basically for me saying congratulations on being admitted to the next TAMS class of 2022, or you have been designated an alternate after extended review. And like I said before, I'll also send an FAQ sheet for any given year. Why am I an alternate? What did I do wrong? Why was my friend admitted? I have a higher GPA than he does, or I'm ranked higher than she is. How'd she get in? We do know that students are competitive, and TAMS is not, I'll say it, as I say many times, it is not an SAT contest or an ACT contest. Some people think it is, but they get that impression not from us. We have had students with near perfect SAT scores who are not admitted, someone with much lesser scores get admitted. We look at files holistically. We want to know about the entire person, your entire personality, whether you fit here, whether you have drive, whether you are motivated. Do your teachers think that? Do your friends think that? In your interview, does it come across that way? Are you interested in STEM, or do you just want to get out of the house? These kinds of things. These are the kinds of things we look at and evaluating. And again, if you are an alternate, all is not lost. You have a chance to be admitted again, and you can call me or anybody on the staff. You don't have to call me to ask, what can I do to increase the chances that when they review my file the next time, I will look a whole lot better. The third verdict is not something you can do much about. I can commiserate with you. I regret that you have not been admitted. Believe me, I would much rather send admit notices to everybody. It gives me no joy turning down students, especially gifted students. I mean, pretty much all our applicants are gifted to some degree or another, and it's just painful. Even after all these years, I don't like sending letters saying you've not been admitted. But it's a learning experience for you. Something that is kind of off script, but I think I'll bring it up here. There is a professor at Princeton whose name I can't remember. He has presented online a CV, a curriculum vitae, a CV of his failures. Most people have a CV of all their successes, but in his CV, it's at once surprising, since he's at Princeton, of all the failures he's had in life. Schools he did not get into, scholarships he did not win, papers he sent out for publication that were turned down, things like that, which again, it's inspiring in a kind of strange way, because you would think that someone of his caliber never got turned down for anything. Everybody has pitfalls in life, and just reading his CV of failures, kind of once you get over the shock, it's kind of inspiring to know, don't just quit. So you got no for this one thing. You're still worth a lot. You're still smart. You still can do many things. After all, admission is just judgment. We make every attempt to be fair in our judgment, but that's all it is. It's our opinion on your application. So if you don't get in, show us where we were wrong, become a great success in life, and God bless you. I hate sending deny letters, but that's part of my job.
All right, so that's the end of our slideshow here. And I will jump back into our video component here. Thank you for sticking with us here. I'm going to go out to the Q&A, and we'll start after everybody has said, can you, that they could hear us. Oh yeah. So when are the interview dates sent out?
Okay, we try to send those out. We try to give several weeks notice because it depends on the number of applications we're getting for any given unit of time. We will be interviewing this first group, November 23rd. We just settled on those dates, not a week ago, maybe something like that. A couple of weeks ago. So if you look on the website webpage now, we do have a number of interview dates already posted. We just posted those yesterday, I believe it was. So I think there are 5 or 6 like that, and I wish I thought to bring those. I don't have them. But November 23rd.
Well, we're gonna try something here. We're gonna try to get rid of that stinking building. Hold on just a second. Okay, so we're presenting this to you. Did we put those on the admissions calendar?
I'm not sure.
Oh, no, we put them
Go
in
to visiting.
visiting. Okay. So we've got interview day here, and
Right,
so we
there we
have
go.
posted these interview dates down here, and so you'll see we have one Friday, December 13th, January 25th next year, and then February 8th, March 21st, and then April 4th. So we've got several of those scheduled. Yeah. Pop back in.
And if you can't see that, just go to our webpage, Visiting TAMS, and we have that.
Okay. So this question here, my daughter's application has been complete a few weeks and she's not heard anything. We are going through the review process right now.
Right.
There,
Depending on the volume of applications, there may be a slight delay time. I can't speak to that particular your particular issue, but we have staff members who are entering the data by hand, computer, and so it may take a while. Sorry to hear that you haven't heard from us in a while, but if it's a severe problem, you can just call our number and we'll try to look up your particular issue and see if there's a problem.
okay. So Sri is the next question I see. If 10th grade progress report is not available until December, would the application be considered incomplete until then?
Unfortunately, yes. We can't review the files until everything, all the requirements are in. So that's disappointing, I'm sure, but we will not have filled even a tenth of the class before then. So there'll be plenty of seats available. Sorry to make you wait, but we have to wait until all the documents are in before we can review them.
And the next question, does going to SMI help your application?
SMI is a Summer Math Institute, which we hold here on campus. We have had over the years quite a few SMI students enrolled. It certainly doesn't hurt. I don't say it gives you a leg up or anything, because what really counts is all the factors I mentioned before through the holistic review. But it certainly doesn't hurt to have attended SMI. We know that you have a certain intellectual standing and that you are certainly interested. So it might help in those regards.
The next, how will we know which interview date we are invited to if our application is accepted?
Well, we will tell you with several weeks to spare, because we know that you're busy and you have school and travel plans and so on. So we will tell you when we send your application inviting you for an interview. We'll tell you, we'll give you all the information in advance that we are able to give you at that time.
And so are letters of recommendation separate from the required teacher evaluations?
Well, we only require 4 evaluations, a counselor plus the 3 teachers. But if you want to submit other recommendations, particularly if they are really important ones, if you won major awards and so forth, you can add those. They're not required. We only require the 4. But if you want to add some others, you can just send a note saying, I'd like to add this to my file. And of course, we're not going to turn it away. We'll read it and evaluate it.
So as rank is considered in more competitive schools, are grades also considered?
Yes, we know, and I'm not going to name them, but we certainly know the schools in this area, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that are notoriously rigorous. And so grades and ranks and those kinds of things are taken with a grain of salt. In other words, in context. with everything. So we don't hold you to a specific standard, because we know that getting a 99 in one school is more difficult than getting a 99 in another school.
And how are applicants from private schools evaluated? They do not rank students.
Same thing. We at least locally, we know, having been here, I mean, I haven't been here 30 years, but TAMS has been here that long. By now, we've assembled files of data on schools and so on, and so we have some idea even about the private schools. But you can tell a lot about schools by the information that the schools send us, or the information that's on our webpage, on their webpage. Lots of schools have data on their web pages, and lots of counselors, without asking, will send us information about that. So we'll know a lot of information just from that.
Okay, thank you. And the next question also, I'm sorry, but I wasn't able to hear when you answered the question on the timeline of our acceptance email before the next interview day. Could you please repeat that?
Okay, the timeline on acceptance emails. Let me just say that if it wasn't clear, we're on a rolling admissions process this year, which basically means first come, first serve. But we have specific interview days that we will assign you to based on the time we receive your application. And so, excuse me, it still behooves you to apply as early as feasible for you without being too early. We won't have a class filled anywhere in near time. It'll probably be in the spring sometime, but we will send information to you, especially if you ask, about how long will it take before my interview, or before I'm considered for an interview, for example. We try to be expeditious about this. In other words, we try to stay on top of this, but things happen. But you can certainly call me or call anybody on staff, and anybody who works with the files, like Laura Beecham, whom you will hear from next month, actually, about what information we send out. So we try to give you time to prepare yourselves, prepare your interviews, and so on. At least 2 weeks. That's the goal anyway. With holidays coming up, it might be a little difficult to guarantee that, but we try to give you a 2-week advance notice before your interview so you can prepare for it.
And as part of that rolling admission too, I think you said this, but I'll clarify it just a little bit more. The applications will, as you have gotten all of your information to us, you will go into that portion of our role in reviewing that. And then after that is when we make those decisions on whether or not to interview you. So if there are missing components to your application, or we're still waiting on the SAT scores, ACT scores, then you're still not to that second portion where we are reviewing your information. I mean, we see it there and we're looking over it, but it's not a fully encompassed review where we're saying, okay, this person is eligible to move into the next interview slot. So for those that are submitting their information now, you will get an early interview date, so on and so forth. My school is extremely competitive with a lot of GPA gamers, people who try to lower others' grades to make theirs seem better rank-wise or GPA-wise, falsely accusing people for cheating, giving classmates incorrect solutions when they ask for help, etc. Is TAMS a similar environment to this?
In other words, it's TAMS cutthroat, like your school appears to be. Remarkably, no, it is not. TAMS is very collaborative. We don't rank our students either. I think if we did, we would be a cutthroat school, to be very honest with you. Everyone wants to be number one, but we don't have a number one. We consider all of our students special by virtue of the fact that they were good enough to get in here. And so our students, you have to account for individual differences, of course, but our environment I dare say if you ask any current TAMsters, it's not cutthroat at all. People help each other. I see them helping each other all the time. They want their classmates to succeed. No one wants to lose a classmate or a roommate. So you don't see this false accusations and so on that you might see in some places. We are not like that at all, and I can see that with great confidence.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the best things that I see and hear from the student body currently, is that they're more about lifting one another up and helping each other along than anything else. Next question, are TAMS classes project-based, or are students mostly working independently? If in group projects, are there, let's see, are other class students outside of TAMS, outside of the TAMS program included in those groups?
Since all of TAMS classes are university classes, you'll get a lot of individual differences depending on the particular class. But I would think that most of it is project-based, but then you have some students working independently. It does vary from course to course, and I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but
yeah,
that's my general impression.
I mean, a little bit, and I think it really just depends on your student. So say, for instance, your student is doing research in a lab, and whether or not they've been paired with several other individuals that are also doing the exact same research, then yes, of course, they're going to be working on, working actually very closely with other students. As part of that, some of those students may not be other current TAM students. Now, if you're asking the question whether or not they hang out mostly with undergrads or grad students on campus, that's really just not a big thing with our TAM students. They like to hang out with other students that are their age,
right.
And they all really kind of fit in together very well within the hall. But I will also add that with some of the other tracks, specifically media arts has been very informative, that their programs that they have, or their track specifically, has a lot of project-based things going on for them, and the students work very closely together. So that's another component of, if you're interested in the media arts track, then that again is based on your students solely and where it is that they think that they're going to end up. So I think it's collaborative, dependent upon where they want to be with their track, and then also if they're in research or, so it's just going to be all over the place, I think. Are grades considered by weight, honors courses versus on-level courses?
Well, first of all, we do look at whether your courses are honors or not. In fact, we expect students who have access to honors courses or accelerated courses, pre-AP, AP, IB courses, and so on. We expect you to take advantage of that rather than coast along in an area where you could put forth more effort. We do look at those things. However, if your school is a small school, for example, that does not have honors courses, you won't be penalized. What we say is take the highest level courses you can take that your school offers. If you do not, the selection committee will wonder, well, why didn't you? Because all of our alumni, our graduates, they took the hard route. They took the honors courses, the more challenging route, I might say. So yes, we do look at honors courses versus on-level courses. If you don't have honors courses, don't worry about it. Again, we take a lot of things into consideration. But if you do have honors, we expect you to take advantage of those.
Any other questions? You guys have had some wonderful questions this evening. I appreciate your time, and I apologize about the inconvenience of the presentation, and I will make that a live presentation for you to all have. Not live, but I'll put it in PDF format and send that out to you all. Just another lovely moment of having a webinar snafu. So yes, of course. You are very welcome, Sri, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you very much.
Yes, of course. And I will make this video live to everyone so that you can listen over the information again, and we'll hopefully have that out for you in the next week or so. I had a little bit of a snafu trying to learn some software, but then we got an IT guru that we just hired on, and he's great at kind of slicing out some different sounds and that sort of thing. So we've got that under our belt, and we will be releasing this here shortly. I will also send you an email whenever I do so that you know that it has gone live and you can take a look at it. And yes, of course, thank you all for your time this evening, and we appreciate it.
Hope to see some of you in this very room shortly.
Yay, yes, excellent. All right, thank you so much for your time, everyone.
Thanks.